Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, guys, I am back. We're going to work on comics. I had a very, probably like too long of a nap after finishing the shading for page 121 of Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I also had some breakfast after all our talk of breakfast foods. On the last stream on episode 381, I decided to have some breakfast. So I actually had French toast, which was good. Although it was a very hard choice between French toast and pancakes after all our talk of yummy breakfasts. So I also am now. I poured myself a Coke, and then I poured in it a bunch of Fernet Branca, which is one of my favorite drinks. Is a Fernet and Coke. So I'm going to have that, and we're going to work on coloring page 121 of Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So, with not much to say, other than if you haven't yet, consider buying Jacob's Apartment or Two Stories, my two graphic novels that are currently out, and supporting independent comics that dare to go into realms that are kind of like the realms of fiction, like autobiography and slice of life, then check those books out, support them, Jacob's Apartment and Two Stories, and check out any of my music on Spotify under Joshua Kemble. There's about 5 albums up, I believe. And that's pretty exciting. Okay, with that said, let's get to our stream. Boom! Okay, so here is the finished page that we finished on the last stream. And now what we're going to do is get into this and color each one of these little panels. I've pulled up a bunch of previously done pages as well. And so what I'm going to do is obviously probably pull some of the colors since we've already established the color palette for this scene. And we're just going to lay out flat colors underneath and see how far we get. So we'll see without further ado. Man, I gotta say that the one thing that kills me about the weekends, and you guys are probably dealing with this as well, is usually how exhausted I am from work on said weekends. Because usually I'm working on comics when I get home as well. So I'm kind of burning the candle on both ends, and then by the time it gets to the weekends, I'm pretty exhausted. But the thing is, I have to kind of fight that and still try to get this stuff done. That's kind of half the battle here of art. But I feel like today I've kind of half won that battle. I think my nap went a little too long, so I would call that as a bit of a loss, like the taking too long of a nap. But I feel reinvigorated and ready to rock and roll. Okay, so here we go. We're going to select and expand our selections here. And the way that I have to flat color this, I've mentioned this a million times on here, is a little different than if it were solid black and white aliased lines, right, where you have solid black lines. The fact that these are kind of pencil lines means that I need to kind of manually make the selections. And I don't know why my computer, I just zoomed in and it kind of froze and then did something kind of schizo real quick. Okay, there we go. Wow. There's a mass computer lag. Hopefully this catches up with itself. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in and we're going to start with panel 1. Assuming my computer doesn't completely lose its mind. The first thing I do is make a selection based on those panel areas. Make sure that it's on the interior, and then I'll go to Edit Fill or Shift F5. Oh, actually, I should make sure it's white. We're going to do Shift F5. Fill the color, the foreground, so that underneath each one of these layers of line, right, I have like a nice solid area underneath. This is great because now I can lock the transparent pixels on said area. There's actually one other thing before I start getting into flats. The text boxes, I need to make an area underneath that's white. And then we'll kind of go from there. So now what I have, if I zoom out just to show you guys, the way that I've executed this is first I do ruled panel borders and text, right? Then I do my line layer. I'll put like a white behind it so you can see that. Then underneath, I'll do shading. That's just for the style of this book. And then underneath that, now I'll turn the white layer in the background off so you guys can see. Underneath that, now we have added flat color white. And I've locked the transparent pixels, which means I can paint over those areas and it won't dig into any of the areas that you see as like checker marked here. And then underneath that, I've made a white layer for where the text is. So now it's just a matter of like carving through panel by panel and getting those flat colors in. As I'm making those flat color selections, I find it personally easier to get rid of the shading. This is a method that the first like 10 pages, I didn't have this like so easily organized because it was a new style for me. So this is kind of a new organization method that came out like about 10 pages into the book that I've been using. And it's much more efficient than the earlier iterations of how to do this. And at this point, I'm going to go and select all. And then now I'm going to basically with the selection tool, I'm going to hold Option, which basically minuses out the parts that I'm selecting. And I'm going to deselect all of the areas that are white on the page. So it's been a very interesting year so far. We're about, we're well into the second quarter of the year. It's been an interesting change of pace and career and all sorts of interesting stuff. We have an election coming up next week. That's going to be dramatic, potentially existential as a threat. We'll see how that goes. But at this point, I think you guys, like myself, might be a little burnout on everything related to politics because it's just everywhere. I have one political thing I will say is be weary of people who say that they're moderates at this point. Be wary of people who say, I'm moderate and undecided. I think those people are pretty darn decided from my experience. And the fact that they don't know is they're kind of just looking for an excuse to vote a certain way that they morally know is wrong, and are trying to kind of pander. That's my take on it. So be weary. Be weary of those. Okay, so right now we're gonna select all the white areas in the illustration that I can kind of be aware of at this point. So right now I'm picking Elizabeth's costume, and everywhere that's white on there. I need to kind of zoom out and remind myself of other spots. I believe she's wearing a white shirt, but I need to look at previous pages to remember. I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. Okay, so her shirt is white. That's good to know. Let's go back. So that's an area we'll deselect. Very strange lines I chose on some of these. I'm not super sure about. So I'm going to guess. The neat thing about indie comics is you are kind of doing everything. So a lot of bigger comics and stuff, they'll have like a graphic designer, a letterer, like a penciler, an inker, a colorist. And there is something to be said for those old school comics where everything is done by one lunatic person who on a Saturday would choose to work on comics rather than anything else. But it kind of gives you, for better or worse, like kind of that full creative vision of the artist, which I think is kind of the heart of cartooning. And I feel like, to me, the comics that I really dig, that I've been inspired by in my life, are kind of executed in that way where they're kind of like a singular creator's vision. Here I have some indicators, but I feel like earlier in this book, maybe it was on panel 116. I need to kind of see if I can pull color. And there we go. We can. Okay, so let's pull color from here. So we're on. What do I need to look at first? Okay, we actually need to pull all these colors. Okay. So 117. Ooh, was it 117 or 116? I think it was 116. I'll move this a little bit closer up here in the tabs too, so that it's easier to get back and forth to reference. Okay, so I'm going to eyedrop some of these colors, and I'm going to start by let's get these gentlemen drivers. Oh, my goodness. That's what happens when you don't select the right thing. Okay, now we should get these gentlemen drivers. So this is going to be driver to... Okay, I'm canceling the thing that happened there. I want to move this over just one. Okay. Hopefully that worked. Oh my goodness. My Photoshop is being real fidgety. Okay, I just wanted to move it there. There we go. Okay, so this is the driver on the left, which would be my right side. So that's going to be the driver closest to us. I'll make that this guy. His hat is like this. I know that I have him appearing at a different point in the comic too. I think he appears on the final panel of this page. So in this case, if he's the driver on the right hand on my right hand side, would he still be the driver on the right? Yes, he would. Good. So if I'm facing him, he's the driver on the right, but from his vantage point, he's the driver on the left. All right, there we go. Now let's get his hair. You're gonna hear sounds of my kid doing homework he needs to catch up on in the background. All right. And we're rocking and rolling on color here. The thing that I feel about comics is like kind of a superpower is patience. You have to I don't know. I think you have to have a mix of kind of slow burn patience with these things. Especially when it comes to coloring a comic, right? If you try to do this very quickly, it'll often lead to flat selections that are kind of sloppy. All right, let's get the same color here. Now we're going to do the dude's skin. This is driver number 1, is what I'll start calling him. Okay.
Yes. Am I also making the same adding right away? Yes. So if that ever happens to me, we'll have to check there too. Let's focus on the basket.
Yeah, I think the only thing that mystifies me about the current upcoming election is the fact that I feel like a lot of the electorate has just been brainwashed to like completely forget what happened on January 6th. Or like kind of downplay it. Even though like I think at the time anyone watching it live kind of it was pretty obvious what was going on. So I think there's either a willful brainwashing of like forgetting that it happened, or there's a silent cheerleading of what happened, where there are people who know fully well what happened and just know how bad it would sound if they said they support it. So instead they feign ignorance. That's my own take on it. Okay, let's see here. We've got our vest color here. Our vest color. I don't think the vest is really visible on that one panel, but I think it is visible here. Do I have a tie color? I should look into whether there is a tie color. I had him have no tie. Interesting. So that might actually mean maybe we just ditch the tie. I like it. Okay, let's get his jacket color. The slow and steady color fill. There's like an art to this, having the patience to do this. But it's also kind of fun. Like, it always kind of cracks me up as an art major or an artist who's making creative work. People who, for fun, will do like a coloring book. And I get it. I get why somebody would want to color in a coloring book for fun. But in my mind, why color in a coloring book when you can make your own coloring book? You can make your own art. Spend that time, that decompression time, coloring your own stuff. Because I'm sure it is very therapeutic. In fact, I have definitely experienced that. Like when I've, if I'm ever coloring in a coloring book with a kid, it always feels really fun. It feels like being a kid again. You get to just kind of zone out and color. But as an adult, I think it's so cool to be able to do that for your own creative projects and actually have something new at the end rather than, just an image drawn by somebody else colored by you, Oh. All right. And that's not knocking coloring books. I was just saying, I think one of the cool things about being an artist, especially if you're lucky enough to do this professionally, is you're pretty much getting paid to do a coloring book half the time. Half of what you're doing is coloring. That's pretty fun. We got Pesky One that says, "Hey stranger," on Twitch. How's it going, Pesky One? That's a good username. So kind of getting this specific guy colored, and now we're going to work our way through these other things. What else now? Okay, I'm going to start. Maybe we'll do Robert this time, because I think Robert only appears in one panel on this page. So let's do Robert colors, pulling from previous pages. So we'll start with Robert's hair. Of course, making sure I'm saving along the way. There's nothing worse when you're working on flat colors or comics, especially when you're at the digital part of it, to not press save. I have so many friends with horror stories about that, where they've worked for hours and hours on a page and then they forgot to hit save and they lose hours of work. And I can tell you, as an art director, when I was an art director, that would occasionally happen to members of the team where they'd be on a deadline and working on something crazy and it's due in like a couple hours and they'd lose like 30 minutes of work because they didn't hit Command S or Apple S. Always save. All right. Oh my goodness. I have no idea what happened there. Okay. We're still in. We're still in this, boys. Okay. I know exactly what I'll do to resolve that. I accidentally let go of the deselection. It said, I do have something to add to your previous discussion on coloring. Take my opinion with a grain of salt. I think it comes down to someone's confidence in line art. I've seen a lot of people find coloring more stressful than therapeutic because they fail to create a proper base, and then they believe they'll ruin their drawing. I agree. I think that there's a couple things, like coloring digitally is very great for that because, you know, you're not really going to ruin your drawing. Your drawing's on a different layer. So that's one thing where coloring digitally is great because you don't have that traditional worry of ruining your drawing. Coloring on traditional art, I kind of agree with that in the sense that I think that a lot of, especially newer artists, young artists, will kind of have that problem across the board where if they weren't so full of fear when approaching their art, would be better artists. But what happens is, like, a young, and this used to actually happen to me when I was a really young artist. What happens quite often is you get real fragile and afraid of making mistakes on your page. And because of that, you draw too precious and too careful, and you end up with kind of a mediocre piece. Because it's almost like, I'm sure this would be the same for athletes too, where I'm guessing if you are playing a game, or let's say you're playing a gig as a musician, and you're super paranoid or afraid of making mistakes the whole time, Jim said, I'm washing the dishes, listening to you. Please be really motivational. Break those dishes, Jim. Throw them across the room. Don't let those dishes control you. Take those dishes out and destroy them. Teach the dishes who's who. You tell those dishes who's boss. Did that help, Jim? I'm going to get like hate mail from Jim's wife. That's true. Benji was saying, hey,
you would be spending a lot of money every time you use a dish.
I like Benji's advice. He was saying,
it would just be best to use paper dishes instead.
Yeah, so Ben had the great advice of saying you should just throw away all your dishes and then just get paper plates so that you don't have to wash dishes anymore, Jim. How's that for motivational? I think there was a point in time where when I was a bachelor where I felt that way, where I was like, yeah, I could just do paper plates, which is like horrible for the environment. Like, I'll just do paper plates every night, but still, I had that thought as a bachelor. Jim said Leanne's listening right now and she's on her way.
Also, my mom's listening.
You really don't want to be on the fury side of Leanne.
What about the trees?
My wife has met Leanne too. She is an awesome person. We love Jim and Leanne. They're great people. But Leanne is somebody you do not mess with. You do not cross Leanne. You do not break dishes unless you're right now doing dishes, and just throw them away, Jim. There's no point. Listen to Benji. Pesky said, I feel like I am missing on the meat and potatoes of chat. On what other streaming platform are you using? Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, so most of my following is on YouTube. Not that I have much of one. Pesky one. But this streams to both YouTube and Twitch. My dog wanted to chime in on that and agree. He's definitely seeing something out there. So yeah, so most of the activity in the chats is happening on the YouTube end. But Pesky's saying athletes are a good comparison. And I agree. I think that I've told this story a million times. I think the last time I told it, my wife actually went and got the T-shirt that we made for our teacher. But one of my favorite teachers used to, if you were drawing too tight, he'd walk around and kind of smack you and go, "Be bold." And it's true. You can't. There's no place for fear in art. And when I think back to things that held me back when I was a young artist, a lot of it was fear. Like I would get paralyzed when drawing in front of people. I remember going to a couple, of those cartoonist drink and draws. Man, this happened to me in my 20s. I wouldn't be able to just like sketch with everybody because I was just frightened of failure. It really took me doing it commercially for a lot of years and just drawing for a really long time to just kind of get to the point of no drawing special. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, drawings are special, but you have to kind of be in the zone of no drawing special, no drawings precious. And you do have to be kind of bold and fearless. And so what? What's the worst that happens? You make a mistake and screw up and have to do it again. Also creating contingencies for that, right? So you have methods where it's like, okay, well, I can always go back to step whatever. And that helps a lot with the fearlessness in art. But yeah, there's no place for fear in art. In fact, I think art, the only place, okay, so I misspoke. The only place for fear in art is to confront fear. I think that is one of the primary purposes of creating art, because yeah, when you kind of get over the like, what if I make a bad drawing? What if I blah, blah, blah? You get over that voice, then yeah, every once in a while you make a bad drawing, but you make a heck of a lot better drawings than not drawing, which is what fear usually will result in. Fear is just going to kind of result quite often in just paralysis.
Wasn't there that woman artist that did a bunch of broken plates as her keys?
Oh, yeah.
Just a little ironic.
That is funny.
To your conversation.
Well, I was just, Jim was saying he was doing the dishes and to motivate him. So I was trying to motivate him to break all the dishes. Okay. So we have pants to do here. We're doing the pants dance, guys.
No pants.
That's right. Pesky said, I won't lie, I'm at that stage of my art. I feel like I'm missing something fundamental. I'll take your advice regarding fear. Yeah, and the thing is, the fear is there for a reason, right? You're afraid of making a mistake because you don't want to make a mistake, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to not want to make mistakes. It's also a good thing to want to learn how to draw better, right? Like, the fear is mortifying because you need more knowledge, you need more knowledge and you need more exercise and practice. But at the end of the day, that fear, the rational part of the fear, should only drive you to do one thing, which is to boldly keep doing art, because otherwise all of those things the fear is indicating to you become true. You know what I mean? It's kind of like before you go into a game or before you play a live show, it's pretty normal and probably healthy to have a mild bit of fear of like screwing up. Nobody wants to play a gig to a crowd and just completely suck. And that should drive you to do things that are good, like practice. You're going to practice with your band, and instead of sitting paralyzed by fear, you're going to practice and prepare so that when you get to that gig, you can play a really cool gig. But at the end of the day, the only way to get good at playing shows is to play shows. And the only way to get good at playing shows is also going to be playing shows where you screw up. And the most mortifying thing at a show isn't even making a mistake, because what I've definitely noticed having played in bands and stuff when I was younger, what does happen is the only bands that get laughed off the stage aren't the ones that make mistakes usually. It's usually the ones that make mistakes and then lose their minds about it. Because like most bands, including myself, man, I swear, like when I was younger, I would play shows and play wrong chords all the time. And half the time, no one knows you played a wrong chord if you play it off like, yeah. Like if you just confidently own it, most of the time, unless it's like, a super great musician listening in, and even that super great, like even if anybody plays guitar, they're going to hear that note and be more impressed by how you kind of manage to hit a wrong note and kind of still flow with it and not let that thing throw you out of your game. Right. But yeah, I mean, you want to think of it like, an athlete misses shots. There's no athlete who doesn't miss shots. The only person who doesn't miss a shot are just people not in the game, not playing. So it's one of those things of, if you want to be one of the people taking shots, then you gotta take shots. Jim said, can we name your show The Diss and start talking about hot goss? You guys, my neighbor down the street, let me tell you a dishy story. I like that. Wasn't there was a movie called Soap Dish that was really funny years ago. You guys remember that one? It was pretty funny. It had like Kevin Kline in it. It was a very silly movie. But yeah, you got to be a little bold, a little reckless to do art. And the nice thing about digital art, is hopefully you're saving multiple iterations, so you don't have to be like, that fear is 20 times more irrational, because it's like, dude, if I screw up, like, I can just paint right over it. It's not a problem. But on original art, same thing. You got to just kind of understand everything. Everything can be brought back. You can overwork something, but yeah, there's no place for fear in art except to drive you to do art, to face your fears. Face your fears. Embrace your anger. Okay. How's my okay. That was my Sith impression. All right, so we're going to do the hair business here. This hair business.
This hair business.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I do really enjoy Fernet and Coke. It's a pretty good drink. Fernet's a really weird drink, but there's something about Fernet Branca mixed with a Coke that just tastes delicious. It's even better if you manage to get one of those kind of like artsy colas that are not RC, but artsy. Like the bottled soda that's like really sugary. Pesky said, would you prefer if I hop on your YouTube stream? I kind of feel bad for being on a separate chat. Seems like it's more trouble to keep track of both. I'm cool with either, man. I have the place that I stream through kind of consolidates both chats. So that's kind of a call on your part. Like if you want to interact with people in chat, I would recommend, you're probably going to have more activity and more interaction on the tubes of you. But I don't mind the view on Twitch. I appreciate it. Appreciate people chiming in wherever they're seeing it from. And it's a pretty slow stream at this point. There's not like a million people watching or anything. So, yeah. Let's see here. What do I want to do for... I thought I did the shoes here. Let's double check that. I feel like I did the shoes though. Do. There it is. All right. That was the shoe color there. The Duck said, "What's up? I'm Pesky. How's it going, dude?" Yeah, I don't know if I got the calling it the tubes of you was a thing that I invented or if it was something somebody else invented, but it's very funny to me because it sounds super creepy. That's just a strange thing to say, you know? What are you doing? I'm exploring the tubes of you. All right. Let's see here. She's got this kind of peach jackety thing going. I am very excited about changing scenes. This is one thing. I'm curious if Jim has this too with with working on animations and stuff, but there are definitely times where I will get to like the thing I do like about comics is luckily the setting tends to change at some point, so I think the longest I've been in one setting in this comic is maybe 20 pages. But I have to say, once I'm about close to like 10 pages into one setting, I do start getting a little eager to change it up. Where I'm like, I'm kind of tired of drawing the carriage. Like it was fun for the first, 5 or 6 pages, but now it's like, no, I'm kind of over the carriage. And that's another thing with art that's weird is you have to kind of psych yourself out and get into it. Because if you don't care when you draw something, it really shows. It's like an unspoken thing where it's like when you're over a drawing and you're working on it, like people can tell. I don't know why they can tell. I just know they can tell. I guess it would be kind of like if you were painting a house and then you got to a point in the house where you're like, I'm over this. And then you continue to paint the house. I think most people would be able to tell which part of the house you were painting when you cared and which part you were painting when you're like, screw it. It might have something to do with quality. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe there's artists out there who like the entire time are just like, it's all horrible. Screw it. And then it comes out great. And whoever they are, I want their secret superpower. Because that would be great. Okay. Let's get this kid's hair. We're almost getting to the hour mark on this stream. The Duck said, I wonder if it's possible to play into that I'm over this art piece type of feel to a drawing. Well, there's that. I mean, you could have maybe that's part of the style. There are artists who make their work look very effortless. There's a guy I used to know when my wife and I first moved to Portland, named Graham Annabelle, and his art is crazy good, but very deceptively looks simple. Like it looks very much like, oh, I'm just drawing, stick figures. It's not like that at all. He's an incredible cartoonist. He co-directed the Box Trolls. He worked on, Leica's Coraline and stuff like that. And if you look at his cartooning, it's some of the most sophisticated cartooning I've ever seen. But it's very simple, like deceptively simple. And so you can have a look that looks kind of like careless and effortless and free, but that's usually done by guys who care very much and have put tons of effort and exploration into their style, That's true. That's very true. Jim was saying, to partner with Scott's Stan Lee impression, I could do a Steve Ditko impression. And honestly, if it's Steve Ditko, I guess I could like look up a few things to be accurate about it, but like who's gonna know? Like who's gonna know if I get it wrong? Even me, I love Steve Ditko, his work, but I have no idea what his voice sounds like. I really don't. I don't off the top of my head. I think I might have seen like some obscure interview once because he was such a recluse. So I actually, off the top of my head, have no idea what Steve Ditko sounds like. It'd be funny if Ditko sounded like Donald Trump or something. He's like, it would be, I make comics. Some people say they're the most beautiful, beautiful comics. I can't do a good Trump though. I'm very disappointed that I can't do a good Trump. I feel like that is the impression to be able to nail. I hope we get to a point where it won't be the impression, but where people will be like, "Who's that?" And you'll be like, "I don't know. You don't want to know. You don't want to know who that impression was of." As a dark memory from our past, we've moved past it. That's where we need to get. We need to get to the point where there's a bunch of high schoolers in 10 years who will be like, Donald who? They what? The Duck mentioned, do you think people will forget the Obama impression? Well, Obama was a good impression too, and I never could get that. I think the thing is, I'm not really an impressions guy, so that might be the problem. But I feel like Bush was a little easier to get. Like W was an easier impression to nail, but I feel like Obama really requires like a slow cadence. We're gonna pronounce things very. I can't do it. I can't do a good Obama, but I definitely can't do. And that because we're America, and that's what we're gonna do. I don't know. I can't do it. Jim was saying just do a really strong New England accent, even though he's not from there. I do always like that. That's an old bit too. I can't remember. Jim, maybe you'll be able to place this, but I remember there's a couple stand-up comedians that have done the bit of. Okay. Here's my impression of Donald Trump. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Okay. Hi, I'm Donald Trump. All right. Okay. Here's my impression of Abe Lincoln. You ready? Hi, I'm Abe Lincoln. Like they do that bit. I wonder who originated that. Where they won't do an impression, they just say the person's name and let the audience be like, that doesn't sound like him at all. I don't know. It wouldn't be funny now, but I do remember. I think I saw that if performed well, if executed well, that bit can kind of work. The duck said I might be too old to get the Bush or too young to get the Bush impression. Good. I think that that's where I hope things go. That's where I hope things go, guys, with the Trump thing. I hope that, a couple years, the younger generation is going to be like, Donald who? That's the best we can hope for, in my opinion. Okay. What do we got? Donald what? Okay. We're going to finish this panel in a second. But as you can see, we're getting there. This page is going to take forever. But that's okay. That's comics. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a trailer. And then I will be right back. Andy Kaufman doing the Foreigner and Elvis and Archie Bunker. All right. Here we go, guys. And here is Home Shopping Crumble. Since Luhan's with us, we'll play a Luhan cartoon. This is Home Shopping Crumble. I'll be right back.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does well at North Carolina State this year. Well, we got another caller on the line. Elizabeth from Phoenix, Arizona. Elizabeth, what can we do for you? Are you ready to do some shopping, girl?
Oh, yes, Terry. I am ready to do some shopping today. I'm interested in that 2-book set you have. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment.
Oh, well, that's a great choice.
In fact, I bought these books before. I gave a set to my grandson, Hunter. These books are amazing.
Well, they sure are, and if you buy both of them, you really get the whole feel of the whole Joshua Kemble universe. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, Terry. These books are remarkable because, for one, you can take them anywhere. You could put them in your car, and you can go to the park or the river. We've gone to the river. My husband Taylor and I, we just love it. And I murdered my husband at the river. Yeah, I did. But these still are amazing books.
All right, that was the actor, the director, the brilliance of Jim Luhan, the indie animator. I feel like pronouncing it Tor sounds extra snooty. The duck said, I guess I better get those books. You better get those books. Those are great books. I'm very proud of them. Okay, let's see here. So we have some more to color, guys. So I'm going to do the windows of this here carriage. And then to shake things up, maybe we'll do that gentleman on the carriage. And right now I'm just going to focus panel by panel. Sometimes I'll do it like holistically and like deselect every color on the page. But I think for my own duration whilst working on said colors, I think I'm going to do panel at a time. It's a little more fun. Do you guys remember Suzanne Vega? I don't know why. My sisters were like huge fans of Suzanne Vega. They thought she was this brilliant poet musician lady. And she's the person who did that da 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 song. I think their obsessions were Suzanne Vega. And you know what? This band, the one I'm going to mention now, reminds me of Jim Luhan's solo projects a lot. Like when Jim does music, especially parody music, there's like a certain 80s vibe, and it usually is going to sound like early, like the early versions of goth when it went, like when industrial was just starting to be a thing, you know, where it'll be somebody being like, the dead dance, dun, 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 dead dance. Or it's got like the sound of kind of this band that my sisters were obsessed with as well. They were really huge Pet Shop Boys fans, like the biggest Pet Shop Boys fans you will ever meet. They watched like I didn't even know this, but I was forced as a child to hear the Pet Shop Boys on loop. And I never dug the Pet Shop Boys. There was never a point where I was like, yeah, this is great. I believe you guys. I was always kind of like, this just kind of isn't for me. But yeah, so they would get like, I didn't even know this except for my sisters. They would rent music videos, like they weren't like music videos, they were like full movies of like Pet Shop Boys concerts and Pet Shop Boys short films. It was just like this very, I mean, I guess I get it because they're kind of danceable. But I will say, as I've gotten older, I kind of appreciate that vibe. And I will say there are a few of Jim's parody bands that kind of verge on like Pet Shop Boys type stuff. Where they'll be like, we are going to dance, dance to the, you know, whatever it is. We're going to sing and dance. Anyhow, so there's that too. I feel like Jim has a bit of Pet Shop Boys in him. And I've gotten to the age where I can appreciate that. I can appreciate the boys of pet shops. But yeah, there's just, I don't know. I think that what it comes down to is just Jim will do late 80s synth very well. He mimics it and creates new late 80s synth very effectively. And my mouse froze for a second there, so hopefully I haven't frozen. If so, it's, you know, my connection's probably fritzing in and out. Let me know, guys, if you guys are hearing this clearly or if I'm glitching. All right. But I will tell you this, Jim for a while was doing Facebook. I don't know what happened to these. Maybe Jim can tell me, but he'd have these like Facebook listening parties where he would just play on rotation like awesome dance music videos. And music videos in general, but you know, he'd curate it and we'd all hang out and listen to them. Those were good times, my dude. Felt like going to a club, you know? It was good times. All right, ladies and gents. Let me know if I'm freezing a bunch. It feels like I am. But again, I don't know. I know Spectrum is terrible as an internet. Frozen Mouse is a great idea for an industrial band. I like that. The mouse did freeze in the freezer. I think we could do it. We could.
Chicken?
Ooh, Benji chimed in with, what about burning chicken?
Raw top, the chicken's on fire again.
The chicken's on fire. I like that. This chicken's on fire and freezing mice.
I think Rob. Rob Top left the chicken in the oven for too long.
Benji, I think he's talking about
I smell smoke.
something about chickens in the oven.
I'm not saying it actually smells smoke. Oh, I'm sorry. I was in the other room. Listen.
All right. Jim said Jim TV during the pandemic, Facebook got rid of that feature. It was their only good thing. I thought that was great, Jim, when you were doing that. That was a lot of fun. Every once in a while, if I had like a down day or something like that, I could just show up to Jim TV and dance like no one was watching. Oh yeah, Jim stuff would have fit very well in Liquid Television, and he was in Spike and Mike's Fest, so he was in a festival with a lot of the guys who were on Liquid Television. We're singing the praises of Jim. I still need to cover the Unicornian song. I still haven't. Yeah, that's true. Frozen Mouse, Burning Chicken, and Skinny Puppy are on tour. That would actually be pretty fun. Like, you know, take somebody who doesn't know much about music and go, which one of those three is a real band? That could be really fun. All right, guys. You guys, we're doing a really great job here getting comicking done. If I do say so myself. I'd say, you know, there's a lot of people who do comics. I would say our comic is easily the best comic. There's no greater comic. I had a friend who told me, "Sir, Mr. Kemble, your comic is easily the best. It's there's no other comics that are greater. Nobody's done comics better or greater than these." And there's a lot of, you know, I feel like I was on a roll there. I almost had the Trump, but I didn't quite. I'll get it at some point, guys. Jim makes the best parody music. You know, and a lot of people think that they're the best. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the frozen mice and the burning chicken. I don't know how suddenly this is becoming a... Dylan said, "Hi, Joshua. I was watching Kung Fu Panda 4 and Sing Thriller." What is Sing Thriller? I don't know what that is. Is that a thriller? Or is that are you saying to sing Thriller? You know, I used to have this thing where if I met a singer, I would ask them if they could hum Flight of the Bumblebee. Because it's I don't know if I've met somebody who could hum Flight of the Bumblebee. That's a hard one to do. All right. It was very funny when I was younger. As I've gotten older, that's kind of like saying, "Oh, you're an artist, draw the Sistine Chapel." You're like, yeah, I don't think this is going to happen right this second. Oh, interesting. He said it's a Halloween special from Illumination's Sing movies, and it's based on Michael Jackson's Thriller. Okay, I have never heard of that, and I have no idea what Illumination Sing is, but that sounds really cool. That sounds extremely cool.
Sorry, I just didn't really understand it because it wasn't
cool as a cucumber.
See? No, don't take that off. I won't. I'm hot. I'm not cold bomb. Okay. I barely believe you. Sit down. But I am not cold.
Okay. You have a cold, so don't get a chill, okay? If you start getting chilly, put it back on.
All right.
7 into 14.
A little too warm to work again.
Oh, that's a good question. Jim wants to ask you, Benji, whether you'd rather be a rock star, a baseball star, or a video game champion. I think I know what his answer would be.
Everyone can answer that question.
I can definitely eliminate Rockstar immediately.
Yeah, you would.
I'm really interested in being that.
Yeah, he said he's not very interested in being a rock star, so he immediately disqualified that. So a baseball star.
Baseball.
What's up? How hard is?
Baseball is probably going to be harder than that.
You have to run a lot.
Okay, so he ruled it out.
I'd probably be a video game guy, not that into running the block.
I understand that. You unfortunately got your dad's genes.
I've run a while in my life because of the stupid fitness crap pacer test.
Running is good exercise.
So Benji, very rightly, since he's my son and I wasn't much of an athletic kid, said that he would rather that baseball sounds really hard and he'd rather be a video game star. That out of the three, he said that sounds more probable. And then he was lamenting having to do a running thing for his PE, which I understand because I used to dread those. It took me until my mid-30s, you guys, to even exercise, okay?
Then that 6 isn't wrong because it's optional.
That's how unathletic I was. Now, when I was like in junior high, I was into sports a little bit. I liked playing basketball a lot. But I think that Benjamin has inherited my lack of interest in sports, unfortunately, for him.
So if we do have a remainder, then it's the wrong answer.
I also found an error on a previous page, which is great because I can fix it. I can fix it, you guys. Okay, so we're almost done with this panel. Let me fix that error really quick. That error. Gonna fix that error. Gonna fix that error. Okay. Here it is. Everybody in the club get... Okay, here we go. No more ers here, okay? Dylan said, did I miss the never have I ever? You did. Well, we only asked one question. And then we haven't been able to get into a never have I ever very fully because Benjamin is now working on homework.
Yeah, that sucks.
But I will tell you guys. Yeah, and I will tell you guys.
I will also bring up that I was actually working on my own thing there. Well, not really working on it, just scrolling on YouTube again.
Oh, okay, he said
Just scrolling around on YouTube again.
Okay, he said he was working on his own thing and scrolling on YouTube again too. So the likelihood of that may not work. In the club, we all fam. The club.
I am sorry.
The club. Club is a great word.
I am sorry. But hey, at least Dad can still be here. Maybe he can bring up the questions right to me.
That's very true.
I know you're having fun, but Ben is doing homework.
So we have to let Benjamin do homework,
I have
and
to get back to doing my work now.
yes, that's a good idea, Ben. So we are doing our page. We are
I
deselecting.
think my new catchphrase is sorry.
Oh.
Aw,
You
that
don't
was
know-
adorable.
You don't know how often I say that.
All right, so we have our wheel of time here. The wheel of time, ladies and gentlemen. We are entering the wheel of time. Okay, here we go. We're about to finish. this page.
I'm sorry that I say sorry too much.
Benji's on a sorry loop. He's saying, I'm sorry I say sorry. I'm sorry I didn't do homework. I'm sorry. He's kind of looping on sorry.
I know. Dude, I say sorry way too much.
No, you don't. You're great. Okay, so here we go. Dylan said, why do you shade first and then add color? Well, that's not on every project. That's just on this specific project. So generally what I'll do is flat and then I do shading. But because on this project, the shading, the style that I wanted it to look like kind of like tinted. And so because of that, I do the shading after the color. Because I can shade better just in black and white since it's all just one tone of shade. It's not, I'm shading with a rich black. Generally, if I'm working in color, I'm going to be doing shadows with like selections and stuff like that. But in this case, since it's just wanting that almost like Prismacolor with tints kind of look, it just makes more sense to do the shading at first. Hopefully that answers your question. But I will agree with you that that is irregular and that's not my usual approach. But the style is very different. I guess at this point it's not so different, right? Because I've done 100 and something pages in this style. But this is not my regular style of working. And that actually kind of goes to the way I usually work as an illustrator or artist, where I don't get locked into a specific style. There are some styles I'm a little more known for, but for the 4 people, who know me. But in general, it's one of my strengths as an artist. Part of why I was able to be a pretty decent art director too is that I can kind of work in a whole bunch of different styles. And I usually, when it comes to style, I'm picking the style that I feel is best for whatever the project is. Like, meaning if, a book needs something in a really loose cartoony style, then I'll work loose and cartoony. If it needs something in a really super realistic style, I'll do that. If it needs to be kind of Charles Burnsy, I can kind of rock in that vibe. And there are definitely some styles that I default to, but yeah, this book was changing it up a lot just because I thought it would fit the kind of Victorian theme better. And when we pitched it, the publisher kind of agreed with that. And I've been really happy with the results. I might actually wind up working this style more often because it's kind of a cool result. So there we go. What I will do at the end is color hold that sky, but we did manage to color one panel. But yeah, usually if I'm gonna render on top of flats, right, I could use the flats to make the selections. Here, I'll just show you super quick. I'll just do this face real quick just so you can see. If this were kind of traditionally inked and I was doing it in my regular style, I would be doing something more equivalent to this. Oh, hold on. Why did it default to that? I'd be doing something more equivalent to this where I'd be, selecting the areas of light, selecting the areas where I wanted light to hit. Obviously, probably like with a much more meticulous selection. I'm just doing this as a really quick example for you. And then from there, we'd be like darkening the areas where it's not hitting. Does that make sense? And then kind of working from there, right? Where it'd be like, okay, now we're going to heighten the areas or whatever. Or if there's areas that really need a lighter area on it. You know, you'd maybe then go in with like a brush.
Sorry, I thought we were still on this. No, pay attention for a second.
Right, and then you'd have these beautiful selections to kind of pull from. Oh, come on. Does that make sense? Like where you could kind of do like lighter areas or something like that. Kind of soften some of the tones there. Hopefully that makes sense. Like depending on how you're going to do it, right? That's kind of a more standard way of coloring. Does that make sense? I'll zoom out so you can kind of see the face. But I don't want to do that. I want to do this. So it's just a different approach. Okay. Now, we finished the panel. I'm going to play another trailer, and then we're going to finish. Then we'll get into the next panels. We got panels, ladies and gents. Panels of beautiful joy. And real quick, what I do whenever I take a break from coloring, when I'm in the middle of it, is I will take everything that I haven't colored yet. Oh, wait, I shouldn't do that actually yet. So I just remembered I have colored that guy, that gentleman. Okay. So we'll do everything we haven't colored yet, call it magenta, and I'll kind of move forward from there. So let's play a trailer real quick. I'm going to play... I think I'll play Frank's Adventures at the Library. I'll be right back after this, and then we'll get into coloring more of this page. I hope you guys are having a successful creative day, and I will see you in a few minutes.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Krembo.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose,
love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide.
You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. Alright, let's go.
All right, cool. Dylan said, I didn't enjoy Kung Fu Panda 4 as much as the others. I thought 3 are 10s, but this one was like a 6 or a 7. It was the last film of the franchise. Then I would say it's not a good send-off. Okay. Interesting. I don't know if I've seen... I think I just saw the first 2 Kung Fu Pandas, which I enjoyed, but it's been a while since we've watched any of the Kung Fu Panda business that is occurring. Okay, now I'm going to pull the previous page because a lot of these are going to be, citing the previous page. No, seriously, they'll have like citations at the bottom where it's like, see page. I will tell you guys, okay, I love comics so much. But that got kind of annoying when I was a kid, where you get really into like, okay, I've told this story before, but I might as well again. I was a nerd as a kid, and I used to do the comic shop, and I had my pull box and stuff. And my go-to comic, my favorite series of everything, was Web of Spider-Man. I don't know why I picked that particular run. I think it might have been because that was the first appearance, I believe, of the black costume. And I just thought that was so cool, the alien costume. But for some reason, I wasn't following any of the ones that ended up accruing in value insanely. And I haven't checked the value of comics, so maybe Web of Spider-Man has suddenly become the big valuable comic of the day. I just realized too that those are kind of blue on the very far distance, but I have them as white in these close-up panels, so I have to adjust that color. So anyhow, so I would go to the comic shop, pick up Web of Spider-Man. I didn't start following it initially, so I used to like go and dig in the long boxes anytime I go to a comic shop trying to find back issues of Web of Spider-Man. And I didn't just get them to collect. Like, I would read the storylines. And one of the most annoying things as a kid, because I was a kid, and so you're on a pretty limited budget unless you're some rich kid, so I had like my $5 or whatever that I could spend a week, maybe less. And so I would have scraped change. Sometimes I'd even volunteer at the comic shop. Because I remember the local comic shop that doesn't exist anymore. But I used to go in there and say, hey, if I, like sort through the long boxes, help you guys like stock and sort, can I get some free comics? And they did this deal where if I worked for them for like an hour, just like helping them put comics away and stuff, they'd give me like 3 free issues of comics. And so I'd do that. I'd go in and like, help them sort and put away like new deliveries and stuff so that I could pick like 3 comics. And the catch was it just would be like, it could be like 3 comics that were like not accruing in value. Like they had to be new issues or they had to be back issues that were like worthless. Anyhow, point being, Web of Spider-Man, I found ways to get Web of Spider-Man because I was really into that comic. And the annoying thing was I'd be trying to follow a storyline and every other issue would be like, see Amazing Spider-Man issue 375. See? And so in order to follow the storyline, you'd be like, crap, well, now I got to buy that issue to see what they're talking about here. Even though you're buying the main issue, you're following the storyline itself. It wasn't self-contained. And that was really frustrating. Because you had to be following like 10 different things, a million different crossovers. And I know crossovers were exciting and stuff, but it also kind of financially sucked when you were a kid to like be out like okay, I'm already subscribed to this comic. I'm already buying every month, every week I'm going in and any issue that's this, I'm going to get. And now I have to buy like 20 other comics just to know what's going on in my main comic. I feel like that was a failure, in my opinion. I think it was cool when it was rare, but I feel like that was a failure on the part of comics, honestly. That's one of the things that probably started to turn me off from like mainstream comics, was just that. Like, it's like where you're like, dude, I'm a kid. I can't. Why was that blurring? That's weird. There we go. Where you're like, dude, I'm a kid. I can't afford to buy like a million different issues of a comic. Just to know what's going on in my main comic. And I always feel like that was a real problem. Like, in my opinion, I still think that's kind of a problem. I think that, I don't know. I think that one of the cool things about indie comics is, in general, in indie comics, to follow the storyline of whatever comic, even if it's a floppy, you just read the comic. Like, you just read the comic that exists. You don't need like any sort of secret, extra thing. You can just follow the main storyline and it will continue and make sense. Anyhow, but I have thought that it would be fun to do a comic that parodies that, where you have like see whatever issue and like there is no other issue. Like, it's just a way to fill kind of silly plot holes. I always thought it would be fun to do a comic that's like a love letter to those superhero comics that I used to love. But instead of those being things that like holes that you could fill, they're just holes. Like, they're intentional, plot cop outs or something like that. But it's, always got like the little asterisk and says, see issue 563 or whatever. But I will say that's one thing that I don't, particularly personally, miss about mainstream comics, was that where you had to keep up with, like the money grab part, where it's like you're really not even almost like interested in story, as like making more and more intense crossovers so that people have to part with their hard-earned cash. Now, keep in mind, this isn't like a mainstream comics problem. This was like a problem when I got into comics when I was a kid, and it made them almost impossible to kind of follow. And that continued on, like even with Image and stuff, because I remember, Spawn came out when I was in junior high, and so I was like the perfect age for Spawn. Like that, in my opinion, junior high is a great age to get into Spawn because he's a violent superhero. It'd be a good age to get into Deadpool too, where it's like edgy, like violent comics, but like, I think that was an issue then too, except that I had, I would like mow lawns and stuff over the summer for extra cash. So I had a little more discretionary spending money. So I would get all the crossover issues for a long time. I think I followed Spawn for like 50 issues. It was like 40 or 50, the first 40 or 50 issues. And not only that, I would like religiously get anything with a Spawn appearance in it, because I was just that obsessed with Spawn. But still, it's like, in retrospect, I don't think any of those really served the story too well. They were exciting events, but it just in retrospect, I think that's a weakness of there's a lot of strengths to superhero comics, but it is one of the reasons why the more convoluted, like the Marvel universe and some of that stuff gets, the less checked in I am, because it's kind of got the same issue as a lot of those a lot of superhero comics would have, where after a while the stories get so convoluted and you have to watch like every single one to know what's going on, that it just kind of becomes like a weird chess game instead of a like, I don't know if that makes sense. It becomes like more complicated to follow a story than it is to just check out and like get uninvested, you know? And I don't know. So that's a little opinion of mine, is like, I think that comics personally should have never gotten into that habit. You know, and there's a charm to it, and I have a nostalgia attachment to it. But I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, you're telling stories, and you know, you should be telling stories. That's kind of it. So that's all. It's always weirded me out when people, you know, act like they're being all edgy by being like, mainstream comics are just doing this cash grab, changing characters, and it's like, dude, were you ever reading comics? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. The people who kind of freak out on Facebook and act like, you know, or on Twitter, I should say on X now, but like people who kind of act like this horrible, you know, writing is like something new, or like unique to like, usually they'll kind of make it like a rant against like woke comics or something like that. And it's like, no. This predates a lot of these issues that these guys will kind of conflate with, you know, oh my gosh, comics and Marvel's gonna destroy the world, and I don't know, you know, they'll go on rants and build channels about and stuff. It's like, no, that's just been mainstream comics since I was like a kid, you know. There are a lot of things, a lot of gimmicks that comics use that a lot of us love, but you know, and I actually think they don't use them as often as they used to. I know that, like, man, in the 90s, you know, one of the things that killed the comics industry was all the like, you know, like hologram covers, and you know what I mean? Like, selling comics that are pre-bagged in sealed containers. So it's like they couldn't even be opened, you know, that kind of thing to me is what, like, I get that there's a collector market, and I guess it would be fun to have a collector market. Like, I'm sure if there were collectors who really felt like, man, this Jacob's Apartment book is going to be worth money someday, you know, maybe it would help my sales. But I wonder how much that helps like readership, you know, because it's like, I don't know. I feel like comics are meant to be read, and I think the you know, in my opinion, like the best era of comics is like when you're a kid and you get like a floppy comic, you sit down, you're reading it, you're kind of bending pages, you know, you're pouring through the artwork, maybe like split open a spread so that you can, you know, check it out, maybe draw like what you're looking at, like, it's so cool. You know, like Wolverine's like shading on this is so awesome. I want to pull open my comic with all my colored pencils and like draw from it. You know what I mean? I think that's the sweet spot with comics, you know, is like, you know, people like really actually reading them and stuff. But I feel like a lot of the cash grabby stuff, you know, just gets old after a while. And I like a nice cover, you know, I like a really great printing job on something, but you know, I don't know, the whole like limited edition acts to like collector thing, as well as the, you know, a million crossovers to the point where you can't even follow the storyline. I think those are areas that comics should tread lightly in. Or maybe they shouldn't, because it's worked, it's been successful, you know. But it's just like, for me, I've checked out of a lot of the recent Marvel stuff, because again, they started doing crossovers, and you know, the movies start feeling like that same feeling I had as a kid, where I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to have to watch like a million movies just to understand what's happening in this one, you know. I feel like when you're doing series like that, it's important to have the story be, I don't know. I think that, you know, this is like my little opinion, but I think it's good to have the story kind of stand on its own. And then the extra stuff is like icing on the cake. Like, you have rewards for people who've been paying attention. You know, you have some shout outs, you know, maybe some little hints, like, you know, but you make it so that anyone who comes in would be able to read the thing you're selling them, you know, from front to back and kind of actually be able to follow the story. So, like, in theory, if you had like a series of comics, if people had issues 1 through 300 or whatever, they'd be able to follow the entire story. Dylan said, that sounds really annoying and stupid. Yeah, it was when I was a lad, when I was a wee lad. I'm curious what other people's take is on that, but I always found that a little tough. And sometimes, you know, it would work in a cool way where, you know, you'd pick up an issue, you know, and keep in mind, you know, the era that I got into comics, it was covers that were selling you on like new issues, you know, like really exciting cover art could really grab you and put you into a new series, you know? So occasionally you'd get like some book you'd never heard of and read it and really enjoy it. And then you'd read all the asterisks and then you'd be turned on to like a million other books that are really great books and great series, you know? And so it definitely had a benefit too, but I just remember as a kid how much that was like kind of depressing, where it's like, man, I saved up to get this thing and now I don't have enough to get all the other things, you know? And I know that it's like a cash grab kind of thing, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's one of the things I like about, you know, underground comics is that generally, you know, if you pick up like a graphic novel, you know, from like Drawn and Quarterly or whatever, you're getting like a whole story, you know? And generally, usually it's going to be a story with a beginning, middle, and end, you know, where it's not like check out issue, you know, whatever, go to the back bins and check out, you know, this rare issue that buy this one comic that's underperforming. So we did a crossover to help its sales. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I still have like a bit of a thing with that. I don't know if you guys had that either. I just like, for me, it's something that I remember. Yeah, from a while ago. All right, so we are doing our shading here. Trying to kind of pick everything that's white in the image. How are you guys doing? What are you guys working on today?
So I can survive 3 hits from him. Like Dread, who insta-kills you. Dread is the entity that I'm trying to encounter.
And I can't remember if I had his socks as white. And looking at this, actually, I kind of can't remember if he's supposed to be the one with shorts. I might have made a mistake there. Might have made a big mistake there. So we might have to adjust that. Because I think it's... Yep, I gave the wrong kid shorts. So that's a sequential error. I gotta fix his jorts, yeah. It's supposed to be Elizabeth's kid who has shorts, so I just spaced out when I was working on these pages. That's an easy fix. So let's go back. Let's fix our line real quick. Can I do this without destroying my cool selection here? Pretty easy fix. Should be an easy fix in theory. I want to use my rich black here. And then 100. And then we'll just kind of fix that because that was a sequential error. This is the nice thing also about coloring your own work. Or working on indie stuff where you come across an error like that and you can insta fix it. You don't have to wait, you know, a week to get revisions back from your artist or colorist or whatever. Like, you can very quickly kind of fix it. And let's fix that other set of jorts there. These jorts have problems here. Okay. Okay, you know what we're going to do real quick? Let's go back here so that we can fill that selection so we haven't wasted our time. I think here I'm going to do the color of... Where is my dude? Where's my dude? Got to go back a page. Here we go. So I'll do the color of that. That's what we'll do from now. Okay. My dog is very excited about something. Dylan said I wouldn't know because I haven't been into comics until recently. Okay, so now I can fix the next page here. Let's go back to the line layer. Okay, so now we'll fix that line. Have it be rich black again. And we're going to fix that sequential error. Have you guys ever had that happen? I've definitely had that happen with sequential art quite a bit. Where it's like an easy error to make, where it's like, you know, you kind of get in the zone and you forget that, oh, it was the other character that had these pants. That's where it helps to have editors too. Although, to be fair, my editor has not seen this page yet, but if they had, and I hadn't fixed that, that would have been something that they would have given me grief for, and I would have had to fix. Well, they wouldn't give you grief, but they'd just be like, hey, didn't this character have different pants? I've had that happen with items, objects, like no matter how much you try to control for it. Yeah, it tends to happen. It's like, you know, you'll have it happen with different items and objects where it's like somebody's holding something in their right hand and then you accidentally put it in their left. Just basic, simple things. Cool. My wife just told me she got me some soup. I appreciate that. I might be eating that soup pretty soon. How about we get 2 panels? So we'll get this panel and another panel, and then I will break for lunch or break for dinner. Dylan said, I have 52 Aquaman, 1 Aquaman Anniversary, Archie Comics, Sabrina Anthology, Ultraman 1 through 3, Rumble 1. I have more manga. Nice. That sounds really fun. Yeah, I always thought it would be fun to do a possible, superhero thing. At some point in my life, I'd like to. I don't know how effectively I'd do it, you know? But it'd be kind of fun for that fact. I want to do Sophie's hair here. Let's see, Sophie's eyes. There we go. Okay, we got Sophie's eyes here. I'm trying to think and remember if Sophie's eyes are brown. Now I want to go back in the comic and double check that. To where I can see Sophie. We'll see. What color are your eyes, Sophie? Pretty sure they are, but I want to double check. So I'm going to go back to a page where Sophie and Elizabeth are doing a seance in a closet. We'll see if we have the eye color here. Okay. And then Sophie's eye color has always been brown. I want to double check. I want to make sure I'm not getting this wrong. Let's see here. Let's double check. I'm pretty sure it has been, but it's been a long day. Let's see. Yes, it does look like Sophie's eyes have always been that kind of walnut. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Okay, now let's do Sophie's lips. I will say a lot of people just really misunderstand the amount of time that goes into making comics. Now, keep in mind, there are people who are like way quicker than me. I always try to mention that because I'm not the quickest artist on the planet. But comics are a time-consuming endeavor, you know? All right, here we go. Selecting this area behind the character. Area behind the character.
What's the definition of a phobia? What's it called when you have a phobia of fire?
Okay.
Now, I think I do have a phobia.
Here we go. We're going to get this here.
I just nervous when I'm near fire.
And then we will do...
When I see fire, when I see fire, I get nervous that it's just going to spread onto something else that's flammable, and then it's going to burn the entire house down.
Here we go.
I'm just nervous when I stand and hear it, and I don't want to be nervous. Plus, I also don't want to get lit on fire myself.
Here we go. Deselecting this. Dylan said, I remember that page. Nice. I'm glad you do. Yeah, this has been a long process, and I know that there's quite a few people who've been following this stream for quite a few years that have seen this book go from page one, you know, from the inception, from me kind of figuring out what style I would execute it in to getting a publishing deal and now being, you know, a good 120 pages in, you know. And I appreciate those of you who've been with me along the way. It's been very fun. It's been a journey, guys. A journey. All right, so now we'll deselect this. There's definitely some stuff behind it, so we'll definitely get into that as well. But right now, I think I want to do Sophie. So we'll do her skin tone. Let's rock that business. And we are definitely well past the 2-hour mark, so we'll have to kind of see what occurs there. I will say I'm not quite as on my game with flatting. It's been a bit since I've flatted, so I'm not doing it quite as quickly as I should. But slow and steady, wins the race, all that kind of fun stuff. All right, let's do Sophie's kid. I think Sophie's kid is here. Yep, there we go. What color were Sophie's kid's eyes? Maybe I'll know on a more recent page. No, maybe not. Okay. I see. So we didn't really color the eyes. That's good. Okay. Okay. So let's do his eyes real quick, and mouth and outfit. Got a little sidetracked with the correcting it. He's a little traumatized from the fight he just witnessed. That's okay. Okay, let's do his hair color. If I can find a page where he's at. Here we go. Hair color. I drop it. Paul said, saying a quick hello. Hi, Dylan and Josh. Hi, Paul. How you doing, buddy? Out of curiosity, Paul, what are you working on nowadays? Paul just finished his recent Detective Perez book, so his third book in the series. These are big graphic novels. They're all on Amazon. Really good books and really affordable. Like really affordable on Amazon. Like you could probably get all three and maybe just barely break $20 for all three, which is kind of amazing. And it will be money well spent. They're great books. Paul said, small 22-page children's book. That sounds like a vacation. I want to work on a kid's book after this. That might be the way to go. After this book is done, I have a feeling I might end up on another crazy years-long graphic novel adventure, but after this one, maybe a kid's book would be a fun little break, because Dylan was asking if Paul uses KDP or Comixology. Come on. Have you guys ever thought of the word besmirch and how funny that word is? It just sounds funny. I can't remember, but I was listening to something this morning, some kind of debate or something like that, and somebody was saying, "You trying to besmirch, man?" And I was like, besmirch just, I don't know why, it just sounds funny to me. Am I alone on that? Like, do you guys not want to giggle when you hear somebody say besmirch? I know it's an actual word. I don't believe it's a slang word. It's just a funny sounding word. There are some words that just naturally bring chuckles to me, and that's one of them. Paul said 3 on KDP, 1 on Comixology. Nice. Okay. Okay, we're almost there. We're almost finished with this panel. Which is great. And now we're going to do his jacket. So this is David Eckley, the other gentleman in this picture. Sophie and David Eckley. David's kind of an interesting character. He's sort of a weak husband who is kind of pushed to and fro by his very domineering wife, who could kind of care less whether he lives or dies. Clearly is kind of married to him for the wealth, and is a bit of a pushover at this point. So there's a bunch of hints of that. Like here, David and mostly Robert, but David as well, kind of came in riding on horses to like break up this giant fight to keep their families safe. And Robert did the most facing of danger, but David did a bit too to kind of protect their families and stuff. And after the fact, you have Robert and Elizabeth, kind of embracing, because Elizabeth was like fearful that her husband was going to die. And then you have Sophie just kind of like, meh, to David. Like, he's like reassuring his kid here, who's a little freaked out, by like patting him on the head. And then like looking at his wife and being like, no concern at all after that whole thing that I was going to get hurt. And she's pretty much like, you're not harmed, are you? While staring at Elizabeth because she's obsessed. So that's this character. I love the character work in this story, actually. I feel like the author did a really good job. They did the best job, a really great job. Some might say the best book ever written. I can't do a Trump. I want to do a Trump. Well, I just can't. Okay, what do we got? Where is David? Where are you? I need your pants, my dude. I need to know what color your pants are, sir. There we go. There's some pants. There's some David pants. There we go. Let's do this. Let's get it. Let's go. All right, here we go. We got some pants done. And now we're almost there. We just have to get the background here. Kind of liked that background. And maybe it'll get a little highlighted in that spot behind the wheel. And then we'll go back to that shadow color. And then we will do the business here of the floor. And then we will deselect it and save. Let's see where we're at. And we finished another panel. So that's 2 out of 8 panels. 2 out of 8 panels colored. Dylan was saying, I need your pants. What are you going to do with them? I just needed the color of his pants. All right. Let's go to a break, a trailer, and I will be right back after this to do one more panel before we end the stream. This one should go much quicker, and you can quote me on that in an hour. And then I will probably be back later to kind of finish this up. But here is Kids Say Kemble, another Jim Lujan cartoon.
We now return to Kids Say the Craziest Thing.
So, little Susie, do you have any brothers or sisters? I understand you're in 3rd grade. How do you like that? Do you like your teacher? You like to do a lot of fun things at school? You got any hobbies, Susie? Any things you like to do when you're not in school? I hear you like to read.
Well, right now I'm reading 2 stories written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It grapples with faith and mental illness. It's ultimately a story about redemption. It's a savage piece of writing. Also, I just finished up Jacob's Apartment, another one by Kemble. Jacob's Apartment weaves together elements of spiritualism and relationship dynamics, as well as atheism, and all the while it deals with abandonment and loyalty. It's a fierce read.
Do you like ponies?
Basically transport colors to this panel because it's pretty much a repeat panel, almost similar to the previous. I choose magenta for the colors of things I haven't colored yet. So we're going to go in here, select the color. Just working quick here, hopefully. Then I will fill it. I've seen people who paint these colors, and I think that's insane to like paint your flats rather than make, flat selections. But then again, if I had traditionally inked this, I would also think I'm insane because I'd be like, dude, you should just traditionally ink it. Then you can use the selection tools. So who am I to talk? I'm a lunatic in my own process too. But I've always found it weird when I see, cartoonists who go in and they're painting the flat colors, because it's like, dude, a lot of time could be saved if you just boom, use your selection tools. Dylan, I think in reference to the to the Jim Lujan cartoon, said whenever she starts speaking, I get a big smile trying not to laugh. Yeah, his humor is incredible. All right, so here we go. We're gonna go into this and hopefully get more of this deselected. I do want to get a lot accomplished tonight. I know that I have to finish this page at minimum today. So let's select all the things that are this color up into the lines, making sure I'm kind of in between the lines. What's great about doing, your work around like eating times is it gives you a good incentive to get finished. Like a good example, I'm pretty hungry by the time I finish panel 2. And so knowing that my hunger will drive me, I have set a goal of I need to finish this panel before I can eat. And that gets me one panel further than I would have been otherwise. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Like, to me, I think little goals like that are really helpful. You want to make them achievable, like I'm not going to make myself color the entire page before I eat, because then by the time I'm coloring the end of the page, I'll be like, ugh, I can't focus, But I can get one more panel than I feel like I can get done just by setting that little self-imposed goal. I feel like that can be a real good trick to focus, but then again, I'm still learning here. I don't know What do I know? Okay, here we go. But I do think those little like micro goals are really helpful. There is a strange party down the street with a lot of cars, a lot of vehicles. I like saying vehicle wrong because I think it's funny. But some kind of strange party going on in the neighborhood. I'm guessing a birthday party or something. But what's funny is it's at this house. Okay, I got to tell you a Halloween story. A ghost story, nonetheless. No, just like a strange neighbor story. I won't name which neighbor, but I don't know these people, but I know we were doing Halloween trick or treat, and we go by this one house where they have no Halloween decorations out. Their door is wide open, but they have a screen door open, and through the screen door, you can see, yes, they have Halloween candy for kids, but they're also all wearing like strange white robes. And it doesn't look like a costume, it looks like a cult. Like some kind of weird cult meeting. And I'm not talking like a cult like, haha, we dressed up for Halloween. I'm talking like the Rajneeshi kind of like thing. And again, maybe it was just like the most brilliant, subtle Halloween costume I've ever seen, but we're kind of like, yeah, we'll pass on this house. You know, we're watching the kids. And my son and his friend just run straight to that door and ring the doorbell. So we're like, okay, I guess we're doing this house. So they come out, a couple of them in their white robes. These aren't like costume white robes. It's like baptism outfits. You know what I mean? And they're just like, oh, happy Halloween, and give them candy and stuff. And you can tell there's like some kind of strange party going on in there. And we leave. That's the house that's having this giant party today. So I don't know, I don't know. Maybe you guys. Have you guys ever seen The Burbs, the movie The Burbs? Dylan said, woohoo, it's raining. Nice. We didn't get rain. That might be a good thing. But yeah, anyhow, it's kind of like a Burbs kind of situation where I think these people are possibly cooking human beings. I'm just kidding. But The Burbs, not The Birds. The Birds is a good movie. The one with that's a great Hitchcock flick. No, I'm talking The Burbs, like the suburbs, but it's The Burbs. It's a really silly, almost B movie made in the 80s. I would call it a B movie. But it's about these people in the suburbs who start suspecting their neighbors are secretly killing people and like burning their bodies in like a furnace or something. And they start getting this like suspicion, and they concoct all these stories to the point where it gets to the point where they like break into their neighbor's house, and they're doing like special ops to try to crack down on it. And what ends up happening is they accidentally burn down their neighbor's house. And it turns out they're just like a nice old man and his family of immigrants, and that they like completely just lost their minds. And this is like an early Tom Hanks movie. But then the twist is, as Tom Hanks is like being, led away to the hospital because he got blown up when their house got blown up, they stumble upon evidence that actually everything they thought about their neighbors was actually correct, and that they're not crazy, and that their neighbors are like these psycho murderers. And so it becomes like this. It's just a very classic cheesy 80s movie. It even has Corey Feldman as a neighbor who's always ordering pizza and going, the pizza dude. It's a very dumb movie, but I love it. It's one of my favorites for just like bad, silly comedies. It's a classic. And anyhow, I'm reminded of that when I think about what I now suspect of these neighbors down the street in their strange white robes. having big block parties. What are the kids these days? They're probably listening to rock and roll and conjuring the devil. That's what I think. That's my thought. What do you think?
I know I can just walk around in small circles.
Dylan said, I misheard you. I'm in our kitchen and I'm listening to you in the living room TV. Nice. Well, it's easy to hear birds with burbs, you know. To be fair, I would probably think I was saying the birds because that's a much more socially acceptable movie to be like, that's a classic. But the Burbs is like a really good one. It's very funny. If you haven't seen it, watch it tonight. You won't regret it. It's a very funny movie. Very, very, very 80s. Like, you know, it's like Tom Hanks a little bit after Big, I think. I think he did it either after or before Big. So it's like that era. It has Princess Leia, isn't it? Carrie Fisher. She plays Tom Hanks' wife. I had a huge crush on Carrie Fisher. I'm sure I'm alone on that. I'm sure nobody my age thought Princess Leia was gorgeous. But I did when I was a kid. And I remember in the Burbs being like, man, she's gorgeous. Yeah. All right. Dylan was saying, maybe they're witches. I know. And there's only really one way to find out with that, right? You know, you just have to get like a crazy crowd of people, you know, to throw them in the water and see if they float, you know? That's the only way. That's the only way we find these things out. Dylan was saying, you sure are a rebel for having had a childhood crush on Carrie Fisher. 100%. That's a hot take. The internet would never agree with such a take. I could get canceled for saying something like that. Okay. So we have we are getting there, guys. We're slow walking this. This is like the Dodgers versus the Yankees game 5, right? We're just gonna slow walk our win here. We're gonna take our time, and we're just gonna slowly accrue enough points to bury any chance or hope of winning. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. All right. The great thing about a repeated panel, though, is now I don't have to like pull up like previous pages or anything like that, and just look at the swatch on the panel next to it and just kind of start carving away very slowly at it. Let's go. If you guys have been watching or, you know, enjoying this, please take the time to hit that like button. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing to this channel. If you like seeing art, hanging out with people while they're working on comics, talking shop, you know, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so you get notifications when you're about to go live.
I'd like to start moving around more. See if that was anything. And in the meantime, I'll just sit here. Wait till I got to play.
So here we go. We're doing... Is that what we're doing now? That was a catchphrase of Gary in The Full Fungus, which is Jim Luhan's movie. Is that what we're doing now? We're doing that now? Is that what we're doing? Okay. Here we go. Something that's been a bit of a battle on these last few pages, and this this is always going to be a battle on art projects. You get so far into it, it can be tempting to like kind of to pull cop outs or shortcuts on the style. And so I do feel like sometimes you'll read a comic where the last pages are never as good as the first, because the artist just gets to a point of burnout and they're just like, I don't care, whatever this is, let's just knock it out. And I've actively been kind of fighting that to try to keep consistency with the style, even though, you know, there's a temptation to kind of rush. It's like I've done enough of these books to where I realize that the reward of doing comics is going to be the comic. That's it. I don't think you should be, I don't know. I don't think you should be delving into indie comics if you are only interested in a giant paycheck, because I don't think that's going to happen with indie comics, most likely. I think what you can control, and if it does happen, that's kind of outside of your control. But the one thing you can control is basically, you know, just like how much effort you put into the work so that you end up with a good book at the end, right? I think that's the thing. We're doing this thing to make good books. At least I am. That's kind of my goal, is I want to make good books. And so I want this to be a book where there's not like a page where somebody just stops and feels disappointed. You know? I want it to be really seamless so people can kind of lose themselves in the story. And hopefully, you know, have a really enjoyable reading experience. Let me double check page 120. Let me double check page 119. I feel like, okay, what about 118? Was there a point? Benji was saying, if people don't like your book, you can always offer them a refund. The problem is, if I'm not the publisher, that's kind of hard to do.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But that's not a bad idea.
Unless the publisher is already offering refunds.
But the nice thing about it is you can always return a book if you don't like it, you know. Let's see here.
Yeah. You can't always return a book if you don't like it.
Okay, so here we go. Benji is giving marketing advice. I think it's great.
You can just put that there for now.
All right, so we have our
And if I want it later, I can get it. Yeah, if I want it later, I can get it. I'll put it in the next container.
just deselecting the pants here. Again, the pants. I need those pants.
Not want to check out the back now.
All right. We're getting there, guys. We can accomplish this goal. I will tell you guys, like, there's like a Temu link. I don't want to shill for Temu, so I'm not going to be doing this as like an ad or anything like that. But I will tell you, you know, we got most of our Halloween costumes on there this year, and it was awesome. It was great for like cheap costumes that don't break the bank. I'm kind of in love with that site for just like cheap little knickknacks and stuff. Or if I need like an extra tool or something like that. I got a pair of shoes recently from there. As like a nerd who likes deals, I felt like that was pretty fun. And my Wolverine costume, I think, was pretty good. It was all right. It was passable, you know.
Almost there, Ben.
I think the costume itself was working. I think for me to pull off something like that, I would have to actually be built like Hugh Jackman, which is never going to happen. But I feel like I did okay. I feel like I did all right. There were a couple times where I've definitely heard the schnicked sound effect. All right. What else do we have here? We have her face, her lips, and we're rocking. We're rocking in the free world here. Dylan said, I was watching rebranding your YouTube channel videos earlier today since I want to rebrand my channel at some point. Nice, Dylan. Do you have like a channel that that you would like to kind of recommend to people? Am I dumb and I'm already familiar with that channel and I don't realize it? I'd love to check it out if I haven't yet. If it's something you're promoting. I don't know if you're able to, but if you can, like, let me know the name of your YouTube channel. Is it under Dylan Magwoy of Thalasso? I'd just like to hear what it is, if anything. Yeah. So, what else was I thinking about recently? Dylan said, yes, it's this account. Cool. I'll check it out. And check out your videos. Maybe whilst I eat. What I will probably do is eat. I will probably try to play a game of Risk. For those of you who are new to this channel, you may not know that I'm obsessed. I have a passion for the game of Risk. It is like my de-stressor to play a game of Risk on my phone. And so that's what I might very well be doing, but I might listen to some of Dylan's channel whilst I am playing said game of Risk. Okay, here we go. Deselect these eyes. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. Anyhow, hopefully you guys are glad I'm streaming again. I know that sometimes on these streams I just kind of start with nothing much to say. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head while we work on comics, engaging with you guys in the chats, which is always fun. I really appreciate you guys showing up because it makes the content way better because, again, I have something to riff off of. But I really appreciate that you guys are still hanging out and checking out what I do. And I appreciate the company while working on art because I do feel like that in itself is contagious. I like hanging out with people when they make stuff because it's fun to get that inspiration from other people who are kind of in the same trenches trying to do this this rolling of the boulder up the hill. So I very much appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm full of a lot of appreciation. Apparently, appreciation with a B. Dylan said, I haven't made anything in 5 months, but I want to come back somewhat soon. Nice. Well, I hope you come back with a bang. Let's see here. All right, guys, we're going to do our our wheel here, and then the floor, and then we're going to call it, okay, on this stream. So what's left is this wheel. This here wheel. Very strangely drawn wheel. So we'll do this first to kind of deselect that. I do have to reselect this area because that was a bad selection there. There we go. And I will say, like, as much time as this has been taking, I had a moment like a couple days ago where I looked at the printouts of these pages and kind of looked at the book in sequence. And I had a moment where I like kind of forgot that I had done so much of this and was looking at it and was like, wow, what a cool book. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I did this, you know, like it was a cool moment of like, okay, this is worthwhile. Cause like when I see it in sequence, it is kind of, it would impress me if I came across a book where it had the level of kind of detail and rendering and stuff. And it's a graphic novel. As this book does, I think I would be a fan, like, of just the way it looks. So that in itself, mixed with the fact that I feel like it's a really strong script, I think the work I'm putting into it is worth it for that on itself. Because, like, again, and I'd encourage you guys, actually, if you're ever working on a book so long as this, do that. Like, print out your comic as you're working on it, because not only will it help you see things in sequence, but it also will help you keep the big picture. Because when you're working on a project this long, it's very easy to lose track of that big picture, right? And when you lose track of the big picture, it's really easy to get kind of demoralized or lose steam. But remembering the vision of what you're working on and being able to see as it's coming together, it pretty much it just makes something really excellent. That will hopefully help you kind of stay in focus. So to me, like, even looking at those 3 panels in a row, I'm like, okay, this was worth the 2.5 hours I've put in so far. All right, guys. I will be right back. I'm going to go eat some food, possibly play a game of Risk, and then I will be back to finish this beast of a page, which isn't as bad as some of the pages before. But I will see you guys in a bit. Thanks again for tuning in. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Bye.